Hey everybody, welcome back to the Highways and Hedges Monday School channel. Thank you so much for coming in. If you like the content, hit the subscribe, hit the like button, send this out to somebody that you know that would love to learn more about walking with God. For today, we close out our series on your God and his finances, and we cannot hit a series on money without closing on tithing. Tithing. And so what I want to talk about today, I'm not going to read any verses, but we are going to go through multiple ones that I can give you and you can look up. Malachi 3:10 is probably the most famous verse on tithing. It says, "Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in mine house, and prove me now herewith." What I want us to understand here, building on last week's message, where remember, money is just a gateway for us to open up our faith and for God to really build that faith and to walk with him a lot closer in non-financial things, meaning the spiritual things. And so when he says here, "Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse," now a tithe is 10%. 10% of your first fruits. First fruits means before taxes. That means if you get a paycheck and you make $100, we already understand the government's going to take 20% of that. Your net check will be $80. Your tithe should still be $10 out of that 100 because that is your first fruits. That is the first fruits of the labor that God allowed you to do. That is the tithe we're talking about. But this, and of course, this ties into spiritually as well. We should give 10% of our time, our treasures, our finances, of our talents, all of those things. He's talking about tithing and proving him now herewith. But for this series, we're only going to talk about money. And when we're talking about giving, of course, that should only be given to your local church, the local church body. That 10% does not go anywhere into a televangelist or anywhere else. It's not giving to your local charity. That is not a tithe. He said, bring it into the storehouse, meaning the storehouse that God has provided for you, which is the local church. So you take the 10% gross off of your gross income given to the local church so that then they can then take that money and start to litter the field with seed, the seed being the word of God, so that people can get saved. In other words, God's financing his own projects. God started the churches, God builds the church, God finances the church, and he uses us to do it. And this is his command, is give me the first 10%. The one I wanted to talk about is, because I've heard oftentimes they say, oh, that's an Old Testament thing or that's a New Testament thing. Let's just take a look at some verses. In the Old Testament, there was tithing. Abraham tithed. That was Genesis 14:20. Jacob also tithed. That was Genesis 28:22. It is important to note both of those are before the law was given. The law came in Exodus chapter 20. So we're talking very early in the book of Genesis. Abraham and Jacob both tithed. Now, let's move to the New Testament. The New Testament, Jesus taught and practiced tithing. Look at Matthew 5:17. Jesus approved tithing, Matthew 23:23. And he commanded to give. He commanded to give. So not only did Christ teach tithing, but Paul also taught on tithing. Hebrews 7:4-6 and 2 Corinthians 8:7. So we see the tithe is 10% of your gross. Where? To your local church. Why? To fund God's work so that souls can get saved. The Old Testament confirms it. The New Testament confirms it. So now who should do it? Every believer. If you are saved, you should be giving to your local church 10%. That is the tithe. That is the tithe of what God has provided for you. Every man's a steward. And this is only the first step in building a walk with God. I hope this helps you in understanding tithing and gets you on the road to start walking closer with God, to build your faith by giving what He's already given you. Hope you enjoyed the series. We'll talk again next week. Brand new series upcoming. Don't know what that's going to be yet. Find out with me next Wednesday. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day. Till we talk again.